So many years ago, when I had a real job, a construction superintendent, we cleared a bunch of acreage that had a lot of cypress trees on this land, and me and some of the other guys from work sent the trees to get milled, and I've had 4 huge stacks of cypress boards, and now I have 2 kind of small stacks of cypress boards. But this is where this wood came from. Okay, pulled out some boards from the top, nice and dry. I got one little rotten spot on one of them. I guess the tarp was leaking. I got more than enough, I think. I have this wide one that can make the bench on both sides, and the rest of them we'll pick out to make the top. They're twice as long as they need to be. They're 16 footers. So I'll get 2 boards out of each one. And if I have a couple of extra, I'm good with that, because I like to keep a few of these at the house just in case I need a board. So I'll cover this pile back up as well as I can. And I'm gonna cut all these in half and put them in my truck. And we're gonna go to Home Depot and get a few more things. If I was more normal and had purchased all of the material at the Home Depot, I could have just pulled them out the truck and start putting this thing together. But I want to use my cypress boards for the top and the bench seats. So they were going to need some prepping. I'm going to need to plane. The top needs to be all the same thickness. The bench seats don't necessarily need to be the same thickness. They just need to be flat enough not to get splinters. And then I will have to rip the edges for the top. And then I can put it together. So let's start making noise and chips, wood chips. I've picked out the straightest of the cypress planks I brought home. They're all 8 foot. They'll probably be 7.5 foot by the time I trim them all. And laying them out, I got about 4 feet, but by the time I rip some of the edges straight, well, I got to rip all the edges straight. Probably be a 3.5 foot wide picnic table, maybe closer to 3 foot, and I think that's perfect. So right now, I got to run them all through the planer and get them all the same thickness, and they're not right now. I just finished surfacing the top. My chip bucket is very full, probably fuller than it should have been because it was starting to go up the separator. And these are lovely cypress strips, and if I had a hamster, he'd be the happiest hamster in the world, but I don't, so in the garbage can. Okay, here we are, a tabletop to be. I actually pulled one of the boards out because I think this is wide enough. I planed them all to 1 1/8 inches thick. I could have gone a little bit more to get some of these bumps out, but then they all would have been thinner, and it's kind of a long span, so I wanted them as thick as possible. I'd rather just do this with the belt sander. This is kind of hanging off the edge, so I got them sorted out where I think they should go. I ripped a straight edge on both sides of all of them, fairly straight. This is the top. I'm going to flip them over and try to keep them in the same orientation and cut the 2x4s that are going to go on the back of them and screw this together. Now, typically you go from the thinner board to the thicker board with a screw. That would mean the screws would be from the top down and show. I'm going to put a couple of them from the other way around and see how they hold. I really would prefer not to have rows of screws in the top, but I may have to. We'll see. So this is my little brace, and these are my screws, and I am having to pre-drill every one of them because the threads, if you try to screw through a 2x4, the threads, it's hard to explain. The threads have locked the screw into the 2x4, and then they thread into the cypress, but it can't squeeze it together because none of the threads want to slip. So if you pre-drill the hole, then the threads going into the 2x, they don't have much grip. When they grab the cypress, it pulls the board up to the 2x, which is what I wanted it to do. However, I got to take it right back off because I want to put some construction adhesive. I'm not a fan of, well, I haven't been a fan of construction adhesive, but I watched some videos this morning and apparently it does work, so I'm going to use it. Drop this to the side, put some adhesive, and put it back together. And I've got one for the other end, 16 inches. I'm 16 inches from the cut mark, which will be about right here, and 16 inches from the other end. And then we'll see whether we're going to put 1 or 2 in the middle. I'm not sure. Since the tabletop planks were random widths, I had to mark each hole. I'm putting 3 screws in each plank. Then I drilled all the holes. I got a scrap of wood underneath the cleat so I don't mess up the bottom of the table. The bit diameter is roughly the size of the screw shank, not the threaded part, but the screw shank. And then I'm putting adhesive. In the past, I've shied away from adhesive because this treated wood is so wet. I just couldn't imagine anything sticking to it. But apparently it does, so I'm using it. And you probably can't see it on camera, but the screws are pulling the cypress planks tight with the treated and squishing the mastic out the sides. So I guess everything's okay, right? So this table design is pretty much a straight up copy of a video put out by This Old House, Tom Silva, the carpenter. And I'm grateful for that because they had the geometry of the legs figured out. It would have taken me a while. I probably would have had to make some full-size mock-ups just to make sure that the relationship between the seat and the top was good. I had my doubts, but in the end, he had it spot on. So thank you, Tom Silva, and thanks to This Old House for the video I followed. Okay, I'll take that. None of the screws went through. I'm gonna flip it back over. We're gonna build a structure for the seats. Well, all the structure. Okay, head scratching here. I cut these 28-degree angle at the bottom and 33 inches long because that's what Tom Silva said to do. And he's smarter than me. And now I have them clamped into place. So the tabletop, the top of the table will be 30 inches off the ground, which is good with a lot of internet sources. It's hard to tell upside down here in the shop. And right now with the top of the bench, which would go here, is 17 inches above the ground, which is here. And if I use my full 12-inch board, it comes to right here. And I don't like that too much because I'm on the outside of the leg, which means if somebody really, really heavy sits right on this edge, they could dump the table over, theoretically. I don't know, that's not very much. Now, if I cut the seat a little narrower than 12 inches, that would bring this in, that would be better. And if I raise the height of the seat off the ground from 17 to 18 inches, that would go down that way so the seat could come in, that would be better. So yeah, kind of made myself miserable over this, but I think I'm good. I'm gonna go ahead and attach the legs to the cleat with some 4-inch screws and some glue, and then pre-cut these. This is just a scrap clamped up here, and yeah, I think we're all right. This is what I have. If I put this board here, that means the seat will be about 17 3/4 off the ground, which is within average. If I stick it out 11.5 inches and trim my my good boards down to 11.5 inches, they haven't been ripped yet, so they're probably going to be 11.5 inches. I still have 2.5 inches of the seat sticking out past the leg, which theoretically, I don't know, that's not much of a lever arm for a big table, but I'm gonna go with it. So 11.5 inches here. I'm gonna go 11.5 inches here and cut that same angle, which was 32.5, which is one of the locks on my miter saw. It made it easy. We're gonna glue it and then screw. Maybe I'll just screw it for now. No, we'll glue it and screw it. I got confidence, sort of. So that's it. Plenty strong side to side. Now we need to make it strong this way. And I'm gonna put a brace from here to the middle, from the middle to there. And then this seat might need a brace because this is a long span from here to here for a 1-inch thick board. But I guess we'll see when we put it on there. Anyway, these little diagonals are gonna make it so I can flip the table over. In Home Depot, I don't know how many boxes of screws they've sold. Millions and millions. And every single box is a piece of crap. They ought to be embarrassed. You would think they could come up with something better than these cardboard boxes that 90% of the time fall apart before you finish using the screws. So I didn't try to calculate any angles here. I just put it in place and scribed vertically here and vertically here. But before I did that, I checked to make sure the legs were looking kind of straight up and down and not leaning one way or the other. And I'm gonna go cut that one and mark the other one, cut it, screw it, and that's it. We'll turn the table over. These are on. Let's get this table out of here if we can. Flip it, put it right side up, and I'll put it outside where I got a little more room. It's heavy. I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. I better get some help. Something bad will happen if I don't. So my good neighbor Paul came over and helped me get it outside, and the geometry is absolutely perfect. Thank you, Tom Silva. There's no way I would have got it nearly this good. Okay, I built this table pretty much copying from the video put on by this old house. Got a couple of differences. One, he built it out of Home Depot structural material, which I guess is spruce or fir, or I don't know what it is. That white wood is deliciously light and straight and easy to work with. But here in our humid climate, that stuff rots. In a year, this thing would start degrading. This is gonna be outside under trees, so it's gonna be wet. It's gonna have leaves on it. And I didn't think that stuff would hold up. So I framed it all with treated, and the top I used cypress. Now this isn't the best cypress in the world. This is what they call regrow, but it's still better than the white wood from Home Depot. Now I got one issue with one of his joints. The joint between these two 2x4 braces and the top, he screwed straight into the top, which is in his case 1.5 inches. He could get some longer screws than I can because my top is just 1 inch. But that's not a good tension joint. Now compression wise, if the leg on the right wanted to move to the right, or the leg on the left wanted to move to the left, and it squished that 2x4, incredibly strong. You could put a car on it, it wouldn't break. But if the leg on the right wanted to go out to the right, you're just relying on those screws, and that's not very strong. And I can just picture this, you know, 5 years from now. It's been through several hundred wet dry cycles. Everything's starting to get a little bit loose, and somebody grabs the left end and starts dragging it, and it just wants to wrench these legs out. I think that joint could fail, although, you know, you still got the seats holding it. But still, I wasn't comfortable with it. So the braces joint up a little bit. Got some scraps of 5/8 treated plywood. I'm pretty sure this is left over from the deck build of the center console boat, and I'm going to screw and glue one of these on each side to better tie this to this. Probably doesn't need it. I'm probably overthinking it, but I've got the plywood, I've got the screws, and I've got the glue, so let's do it. Okay, so I think I fixed a problem that I probably didn't even have, and I made a great spot for a big wasp nest to grow. But anyway, I feel better about it. So now let's look at these seats and see what we can do with them. So I'm going with a 1x for this seat. It's 1 by 11.5 by 1 1/8, and it is, I don't know how much that shows up. It is very bouncy, so I need to brace it. I'm going to run a 2x4 across to the other seat brace, but rather than only having screws here, I'm going to put a little bit of a joint, of a wooden joint, give it a little bit of extra strength, and it won't be that hard, and I got all day. Alright, with a scrap of 2x4, I've clamped it, and I made sure it was vertical with the speed square, and I drew around it, and then I came back with the combination square and marked back 1 inch. So I'm going to take out this from here, from nothing to 1 inch. Take out those little blocks. I didn't hurt it any. David's going to say it's because he gave it love. He just pulled some weeds and put some compost around the bottom of it. All right, I'll call that a win. I'm gonna knock it out and put some glue in there and put some screws on it and measure the other one. I cut a scrap first to get that angle right. It turns out to be 15 degrees, which is kind of nice because my miter saw locks at 15 degrees both ways. So let's get it out of here and put some screws in it. The seat stringers are in, screwed and glued. Both fit pretty good, nice and tight. Now the seat can go on. Now we have no bounce. We have no bounce on the table. We have a good, strong, sturdy table. I think it'll stay strong for a while. What I need to do now is open up my new sander, my new random orbital, knock some of these fuzzies off. I'm gonna put a sealer on it. I'm not sure, not crazy about it, but I'm gonna give it a try. So I don't know if you remember a couple of videos ago, I bought a new sander. I bought a Bosch, and the dust collection on the Bosch was practically useless. I could sand for 10 minutes and then there'd be nothing in the bag, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't me. It just didn't work. So I brought it back, got my money back, and bought the Makita, and we'll give it a shot. Hopefully it'll collect some dust. I had intended to break these edges with either a sander or a block plane before I put the table together, but did I do it? No. So now I have a little, I think it's called a rabbit plane, where the blade goes all the way to the edge of the body, and I'm able to lean it in there and kind of take a good little shave off of these sharp corners and kind of just dress them down and get the fuzzies away from the surface of the table. It makes it look a little better. Well, let's see what the Makita did for me, for my lungs. Oh, now that's a dust collector. That's just from the top of this table. I would have had to sand 400 hours to get this much dust with that little Bosch sander, and that's a shame because I'm usually a Bosch fan. Anyway, I'm gonna keep this one. 125 bucks was well worth it. So I got it sanded. I'm gonna sand the two bench tops, and I'm gonna try to get it on the trailer and do I got some sealer I'm gonna put on it after I get it on the trailer. So I bought some sealer. It's supposed to be clear, or transparent. To me says clear. It's kind of yellowy. I got the table up on the trailer. By the dangness, man, that thing's heavy. And I got a coat on it. And I guess all I'm really trying to accomplish is for the top not to soak up so much water every time it rains, and then dry, and then get wet, and then dry. I like to kind of moderate it, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I need to get it out of the direct sun, so I'm gonna move the trailer. Okay, I'm on the trailer all strapped down, and I just remembered I forgot my bolts. I wanted to put 2 bolts in this intersection between the leg and the stretcher. Right now it doesn't need it, but like I say, 4 or 5 years from now, with several hundred wet dry cycles, that joint's going to come loose. So we're going to put 2 bolts in each one, and I can do it right here on the trailer, no problem. So now I can screw the seats down and be done with this project. Done. Picnic table scratched off the list. Scratched off the list. It's done. So anyway, all right. So thank you, Tom Silva, and thank you for watching.